So let's talk about things to do there. And we've covered some of the things already, but there are a few things about life in Lisbon and the culture that people might not know about. So you mentioned the museums. There are galleries, concerts, theater. There's live music, including these big international festivals. Rock in Rio, Lisbon is one of them. And they bring big names to the city every year. So if that is something that you enjoy, and just because you're moving to Europe and moving to a place that's not English speaking, it doesn't mean you can't see your favorite band perform ever again. Mm-hmm. A lot of people come through the city. It's got a reputation for that sort of thing, big festivals and big events, which is great. Then they also have their local style of music, which is called fado. Did you get a chance to listen to any of it, or have you gone to?
That I think I'm gonna make that a point when we're there next week. Is that was like kind of the one big thing that I feel like I didn't check off the tourism list for Lisbon. But there's so much kind of mythology around fado, and I definitely feel like I need to give it its due.
Yes. So it's a traditional type of music. It dates back to the 1800s. And I believe the story is that it came about with, there's so many fishermen living in Portugal in general, but in Lisbon. And when they went out to sea, their wives would sing these sort of mournful tunes with melancholy lyrics about the sea. And that's kind of how it originated. But you can still listen to it in certain bars, and you can go to fado shows if you want to. Again, the Alfama neighborhood is the most traditional, and that's where you find the biggest concentration of these sort of fado style establishments. You talked about the food a little bit. I know you've also written that you're not a big seafood fan. So if you're like Kat and you're not a fan of, I can't remember what the most eaten type of fish is in this city.
Is it sardines? Sardines are definitely up there. If it's not sardine, if it's a bigger kind of fish, then I don't know. But sardines are definitely like the thing.
I think it's like a slightly bigger version of a sardine. I cannot remember what they're called. But I read that the Portuguese are the 4th biggest fish consumers in the world.
Yeah, not surprising at all. So actually, it's funny because this has changed a little bit. For some reason, when I was pregnant, I craved seafood a lot. And since not being pregnant anymore, I've like held on to that new discovery for some reason. So I actually like seafood a lot more now. And I'm very excited to go back to Portugal with this newfound love of seafood and see how it serves me there. But for example, like I would never have eaten a sardine before when I was there the last time. But now I like relish the thought of going and getting sardines in our cafe. So definitely, I think the majority of food on any menu is going to be seafood. So if you're not a fan of seafood, it's not as easy to eat there. When I was there before I got pregnant, people would rave and rant about how great the food was. And I just did not have that experience because I didn't love seafood. And so on every menu, basically half of the menu was nothing that I would have eaten. But I know that I am in the minority there. So definitely, though, if seafood is a thing for you, know that is the majority of the food in Portugal.
Yes, that is true. I know they have some like chorizo equivalent there as well, like their meat dishes. But it is a big seafood destination. I really like how
big like dishes are very kind of over the top. Like I remember getting, it kind of feels like it was a poutine dish now, like kind of potatoes on the bottom, but then just slathered in cheese and bacon and this chorizo and just a million kinds of meat and cheese. And that was a very typical dish. So heavy food as well, despite being on the Mediterranean.
Heavy food and big portions. I like how in Lisbon you can kind of stumble upon these open air restaurants and often eat al fresco. And it's also pretty affordable for the quality of food that you're getting, which again, compared to London, compared to Paris, it's going to be, but from my perspective, at least, it seemed really affordable. I remember main courses being about like between 12 and 18 euros for a very big portion, like you said. And
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so I just was recently in Luxembourg, and I knew Luxembourg wasn't going to be a cheap city, but it was about the same cost as eating out anywhere in Paris as it was to eat out anywhere in Luxembourg. And so I feel like when we're making these comparisons, like between Paris and Lisbon or London and Lisbon, that's not really even the comparison. The comparison is so far out of that range. London and Paris and Luxembourg, like any of these cities are going to cost double, I think, what you would pay in Lisbon, unless you're eating at, you know, the best Michelin starred restaurant. But like if you're just stumbling into a cafe anywhere, I think you would pay half or less than you would pay in any other Western capital in Europe.
right. And they also have this big coffee culture,
Yeah.
which I'm a huge fan of. So you can have all over the city, there are these kiosks that are really cute. They've been revamped over the past couple of decades. And now they serve coffee and little pastries. And also really inexpensive. You can have a espresso for a couple of cents, excuse me, as well as a pastry. And it's kind of like the national pastime, I guess, is having this combination of the espresso and one of the little pastry tart things that they serve there,
Yeah.
which is really enjoyable for me.
Yeah, me too. Who wouldn't?
There's also lots of outdoor recreation. So you mentioned you feel the nature a lot more in Lisbon. I notice just from my walking around along the river, there's a really nice path, and there are people jogging, walking their dogs, cycling, rollerblading. There are like free exercise stations along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And also all over the city, you can rent bikes. So I think most major cities have them now, but sort of like bicycle sharing apps where you can just sign up and it's super cheap. And sometimes it's even free. I don't know specifically in Lisbon whether that's the case, but you can hop on one of these bikes and it's just on the flat parts of town, a nice place, a nice way to explore.
If you're uphill and going down, or if you're on the sea level. But it is something that I found interesting about Lisbon, because I'm so used to being in Paris, which is such a flat city, and London as well is a pretty flat city, that it's odd for me to be in a city that has so many ups and downs.
Yes, there are advantages to it. Like you get really nice
The
viewpoints,
views, yeah.
and vistas, which and just different levels of the skyline. It's
Yeah.
nice to see.
Really interesting.
Then of course, just in Lisbon, but also the surrounding areas, you have so much to see and do. But the big thing is the beaches. So, like I was saying, you have white sand or golden sand beaches 10 minutes outside of the city. I don't know which other capital in the world offers, or in Europe, I should say, offers that sort of thing. And there are 54 blue flag beaches in its vicinity. So blue flag is a designation they give to beaches of exceptionally high quality when it comes to cleanliness, preservation, amenities, access for all types of people. So it's a really big distinction. And there are 54 in the general area of Lisbon, which is amazing.
It's a lot for being near the city.
Yes.